Well, welcome back. Now, once again, I'm Dr. Jennifer Moses, Dr. Jenny, as I like to be called. I actually think I forgot to mention that in my syllabus video. But in any case, yes, call me Dr. Jenny. Hopefully you've all watched the syllabus video before you've opened up this one. If you haven't, please go back and watch the syllabus video before launching into this one. The purpose of this very short video is just an introduction to the course. It's extremely short, and mostly it's just ground rules. Sort of ground rules for our discussions as we move forward, and just some basic awareness of what the class is all about. So let's begin. You should have the PowerPoint slides entitled Introduction. So make sure to have those before you continue watching the video. I'll give you a second. All right, we ready? All right, let's go. So sort of the first slide is just this idea of, can't go to the internet, certainly, to figure out what's true about the world. And that's what thinking critically is all about, figuring out what's true about the world, making decisions, everyday decisions about our life, like who's going to do the dishes or what shall we make for dinner, all the way to more profound decisions such as what decisions should I make in regards to raising my children, or who should I vote for president, where should I go to college, right? It sort of spans the whole gamut. And the ability to think critically is about knowing what kind of evidence really can inform different kinds of questions. And so this sort of brief talk I want to have right now is just sort of ground rules for the discussions that we're going to have together, right? We're going to be chatting with each other over forums. We're going to be taking part in forum activities. You're going to be writing a paper at the end. And so this is just ground rules for how to interact with one another, especially since we're going to be talking with each other over the internet. Anytime you sort of create a barrier between yourself and someone else, I think it sometimes becomes easier to lose sight of the fact that the person on the other end is just that, as a person. And so I think it's really important just to sort of set the tone. To sort of move on then to our second slide. What is our thinker's quest, right? What is our goal in this class? And I think the ability to sort of analyze the world and weigh evidence against each other, to be a critical analyzer, right, is to be critical, is to actually say, okay, that evidence is good and that evidence is bad. But why? Why do we do that? It's really, I think, when you're really good at thinking, you're able to say, okay, what do I know now? And how can I move beyond that? But not just as a person, but as a species, right? How do we build upon what we already know? It's not as if college or life is about going, okay, what do people already know? And I'm just going to learn that, and then our job is done. Really, thinking critically is about building a taller mountain, building a taller skyscraper. And I think that all of us as, academics in college are really trying to do that, are trying to expand on human knowledge, right? Expand on what we know, make the facts that we know bigger and more powerful. And every new student that enrolls in college is really a part of that, is about coming up with new ideas and coming up with really new discoveries. And each person who can better weigh evidence against other bad evidence, each new person who can say, this is a fact, and this is how I know it's a fact, and this is not a fact, and not grounded in good evidence. Each new person who can do that then is another sort of cog in the wheel of our understanding as a species. And I think that's sort of the goal of this class, is training 35 new people on how to separate truth from total BS, right? That's the idea. And what this class really is going to be about is putting tools in your toolbox as a thinker. We're going to go through just sort of the basics of how do we know what truth is? Are there some questions where we'll never come to a perfect agreement on what truth is? Are there other questions where we can? And how do I know the difference? And when I'm trying to decide on more subjective truth, where maybe we can't come to a right answer perfectly, how am I going to make a decision? And what are the tools that I'm going to use to make that decision? Or if there are questions where we can come to some objective truth, what are the right steps to coming to that objective truth, right? That's the goal of the class. And so as we move on to our third slide, I think sort of the joke of this slide is it's not as we're trolling on the internet or walking around the world or interacting with our friends or interacting with our professors even sometimes. It's not like when someone gives us good information, there's a little like blinking sign on it that says, hello, I'm truth, and I'm definitely true, and so believe me. And as you stumble across an outright falsehood or someone who's misinformed, there's not a little blinking light that says, oh, by the way, this is not factual. Oh, by the way, this is complete crap. That's just not the way the world is. And so we have to be able to do this thing called discern, right? We have to be able to say, okay, what is being presented to me? How am I going to check for myself to determine whether or not this thing being presented to me, this fact, this idea, right? How am I going to decide for myself whether or not this information is quality information? And the tools that we're going to learn in this class are really the single best ways of knowing what's true and what's not. And that's the ability to reflect, to sit back and go, okay, what are the facts? To be able to break apart those facts into their baby facts and break those baby facts into their like smaller facts and sort of evaluate each piece of evidence in its own right. And critically thinking is about saying this thing is true and this other thing isn't. And being able to take a thing that you've discovered isn't true and criticize it and toss it out and say, no, I'm going to throw that idea into the dustbin of history because it's just not true. That is what critical thinking really is. And it's applicable to every area of life. And so at the end of this class, what am I hoping you're going to be able to do, right? At the end of this class, what am I hoping you're going to be able to do? Well, what I'm hoping you're going to be able to do is not have gut level reactions to things. All right, let me take that back. Let me roll that back. We're all going to have gut level reactions to things. Somebody's going to say something and we're going to automatically want to agree with it because it coincides with our current worldview, or we're automatically going to want to disagree with it because it doesn't coincide with our current worldview. That's sort of how people are, right? We really sort of want our ideas the way they currently are to be right. I think all people are motivated for this. And when our reality is questioned, a lot of times people have trouble with that. And so gut level reactions are natural. But what a critical thinker does is they take their gut level reactions to ideas. They take their gut level reactions and they press the pause button. And they do this thing called reflect. They say, okay, I want to believe. So let's use the working example of who's going to do the dishes tonight, right? And let's say I don't want to do the dishes tonight because I don't like doing the dishes. And so when I sit down to try to make that good decision about who's going to do the dishes tonight, I want there to be good reasons for somebody else to do the dishes. And so when I have that gut level reaction of, oh, well, somebody else should do the dishes, as a critical thinker, I'm going to put the pause button on that and reflect and go, okay, why am I trying to come up with reasons for someone else to do the dishes? Is it because I really shouldn't do the dishes tonight? Is it my turn to do the dishes and I just don't want to do it? So I'm coming up with reasons why it's somebody else's turn? Or is it really not my turn tonight? Is it really, I really should have the night off in terms of dishes, right? A critical thinker reflects on that, takes their preconceived notions, and honestly, legitimately says, why do I think this? Are there really legitimate reasons for thinking this? And tries to push back at their current worldview, right? This is called critical judgment, sitting in judgment of your own beliefs and sitting in judgment of other people's beliefs. Because again, not all beliefs are created equal. They're just not. And not all, and if you have two people with diametrically opposed opinions about something that is factual in the real world, it can't both be right. And how the world becomes a better place is by figuring out what's true and figuring out what's false, right? And so a good critical thinker lives in a place of uncertainty, at least for a while. No matter what question is on the table, a good critical thinker spends some time in uncertainty on purpose, says to themselves, I know what I want to believe, or I know what my first instinct is, but lives in a place of uncertainty on purpose, right? No matter what the question, no matter what the problem, admits that there is more than one way of answering this question. No matter what the problem, no matter what the question, there is always more than one way of answering the question. And sometimes more than one answer is correct, and sometimes there really is only one right answer. And the challenge is to then come to that right answer and to know that sometimes you're going to be right. Your initial gut level reaction is the way to go. And sometimes you're not going to be right? It's your first gut level reaction was in fact the one that needed to be sort of tossed in the dustbin in favor of a different point of view, right? Because a good judgment, a good decision, a good solution to a problem is going to happen only after we have evaluated evidence, meaning actually thought about the evidence and gathered all of it, right? We got to gather all the evidence, not just the evidence that supports our own point of view, right? And we evaluated it in all the ways we're going to learn about in this class, right? These are the tools we're going to be learning, is how to evaluate evidence. Also, how to gather expert opinion, right? And how do we know a good expert from a bad expert? Because just because you can put a little name tag on that says, hi, I'm whoever, and I'm an expert, right? I think that we have to know, it doesn't make you an expert, right? And so I think we have to be able to say, this is what a real expert looks like, and this is what an expert doesn't look like, right? And put greater weight on the opinions of people who are highly knowledgeable about a given topic, right? And only then can we say that that we really evaluated good evidence from good sources. And the last thing that a good critical thinker does is they really know what good arguments look like. That not just what good facts look like, but they know how good facts should be put together in a way that's logical and reasonable. Because you can have a lot of good facts and put those facts together in a way that brings you to nonsense, which is something we're going to go over in this class as well. And so when we have discussion in our virtual classroom over these next 10 or 11 weeks, here are some things I want you to just sit with. Just bear with me. And if you never do it after this class, for the purpose of this class, here's what I want you to just, I hope that you can sort of sit with. None of us knows everything. We can't. Right? It is a big universe, and it's a big galaxy, and it's a big solar system, and it's a big planet, and it's a big country, and it's a big state, and it's a big city, and it's a big college, and none of us can be in all places or at all time periods. And so we are all wrong about something. I promise. There are things that I believe that I know I'm wrong about. I've been misinformed, or I've come to my opinion in a biased way and held on to a belief despite counterfactual evidence. I know there's something I'm wrong about. And I want you to know that there are things you're wrong about, for sure. Trivial things, like who should do the dishes tonight, to more profound things, like what you should do with your life. There are some aspects of these big questions that we're not going to have all the information. And so our decisions are going to be in some capacity misinformed, and we'll be wrong. And I think that awareness, the awareness that you're going to be wrong about things, is the best place to start whenever we're going to try to figure out what's true. The second sort of thing I want you to sort of think about as we move forward in our online discussions is that if you want to say that your point of view is the right one and someone else's point of view is the one that is misinformed, you actually have to understand their point of view first, right? You have to. You have to understand where they're coming from. You have to understand their worldview, and you have to really understand it before you can say that it's wrong, right? If you don't think deeply about somebody else's point of view, how can you possibly say that your way is the right way and their way is for the highway? You can't. You have to really think and listen and ruminate about somebody else's ideas before you can just reject them. You have to. Otherwise, you're just washing your hands of it without really understanding it. And that's not good thinking. And if you want to say that you truly understand someone else's point of view, here's evidence that you do. It's when you can summarize their point of view, you can say to them, here's what I hear you've said. Here's what I think you believe. Is that right? And they would go, yes. Yes, as a matter of fact, that is what I believe. If you can do that, say, okay, I understand your point of view. Is this what you're trying to say? And they will go, yep, that's what I'm trying to say. Then you can say, okay, yes, that's total BS. What you just said there that I completely understand, have evaluated it, completely understand it, and I just disagree. And here's my good 10,000 good reasons why I believe is actually correct and why what you believe is nonsense, right? I think that's the idea. The idea is you have to be able to summarize someone else's point of view in order to sort of give it evidence that your point of view is the right one and their point of view is the one that is misinformed, right? That's the idea. And the next sort of thing that I want you to do, to just be aware of as a ground rule, is that I want you to know that even if somebody else totally disagrees with you, in this space, in this college space, everyone here who is trying to better themselves by enrolling in a college class is by definition noble-minded. I mean, pursuing college is a fantastically noble pursuit. No matter how you end up here, because you're trying to get a better job, or because someone said you got to enroll in college, or you can't live here anymore, or whatever it is, you're here. You're here watching this video, trying to gain knowledge towards some goal. And the idea that you would decide purposefully to gain knowledge towards some goal is an incredibly noble thing to do. And by definition, makes every single person in this space right now intelligent and frankly, in my mind, it's fantastic. And so I want you to accept that even if somebody says crazy things as a part of some discussion, that they are as intelligent and noble-minded as you are in this endeavor, even if they are grossly misinformed and spouting nonsense. And if you can remember that, I think it makes our discussions much more fruitful. Next thing, I do want us all, myself included, to honestly consider that someone else may have a better main line on truth than we do, that they may in fact more authentically have more information, and seriously consider changing your mind towards their point of view when you're presented with really good counter evidence. Because I think that's where people get tripped up, right? They say, well, let's just agree to disagree because I don't want to have to change my point of view. Because it's hard. It's really hard psychologically to admit when you're wrong. There's basic psychological processes that we're going to learn about in this class that make it incredibly difficult to admit when you may have been misinformed. And I'm just going to beg you to try to get over that. It's hard. We all struggle with it. But if you can get over the idea that being wrong is somehow bad and changing your mind somehow makes you not as good a person, I think we can all make better decisions in our lives. And so please seriously consider that someone else's point of view might be the right one and you are the one who might be misinformed. And last but not least is just a core tenet of this class. There are some questions where agreeing to disagree is just lame. Agreeing to disagree is just lazy thinking. There are some kinds of questions where there is objective truth, like what color is the sky? There is basic physical laws that govern the color of the sky. We know about the wavelengths of light that get scattered that results in that blue color, at high noon, right? And we know about the basic science of those wavelengths. And so to just agree to disagree about the color of the sky at high noon is just lazy thinking, right? Oh, I know you think that the sky is chartreuse with pink dots, but let's just agree to disagree. It's lazy thinking, right? And so there are some questions for which we cannot stumble into this thing we call relativism. Relativism sounds good on its surface, this idea that we all have an opinion and everybody's opinion is equally valid. It's easy to stumble into that idea, but it's just wrong. There are some ideas where not all opinions are created equal. They're called factual questions, and there are some questions that we can check against reality. And maybe we agree to say there's not enough evidence yet, but to simply say that one person believes the sky is blue and the other person believes that the sky is pink with chartreuse polka dots, and both of those opinions are equally valid, is just flat out wrong. That's called relativism, and it has no place in critical thinking, right? It has no place in evaluating evidence, right? The world is either round or it is flat. It cannot be both things. And one of these opinions, that the world is round, is actually supported by evidence. It's supported by science. It's supported by mathematical reasoning and logical reasoning. The other point of view, that the world is flat, is just wrong. Not supported by factual facts, not supported by science, not supported by logical thinking. And so we can't say that both of these points of view are equally valid. And so we're going to not engage in relativism in here. Now, there's a caveat to that. There are some questions that we're going to learn about in here where you will eventually have to get to a place where you both agree that you are noble-minded individuals and you just need to agree to disagree in this space. But not all questions are like that. And to say that all questions have like a relativistic way of solving them, where all people get to have their opinion and all opinions are the same, is just not appropriate in a critical thinking class. We are going to sit in critical judgment of the facts. And so those are the ground rules for the class. And I really, again, look forward to working with you all. And I look forward to hearing all of your thoughts and having fruitful discussions. Once again, there's a forum. There's a forum that you should be able to see as a part of this very brief introductory lecture. And so if you have any confusion or have any questions or feedback, please use that forum to post a topic so that I can respond to it and we can all benefit for what I'm sure will be your astute questions. All right, see you next time.